make me turn it on every time I go live. So we turn it on ahead of time, warm it up.
Get it warmed up. Yeah, yeah.
That's the
Remember that?
original one. That's the one when we were teenagers.
Dude, I buried mine. It burned out, and I buried it in the backyard. I literally had a
Wait.
funeral for
It
it.
burned out. All you do is take the bulb out, put a
I
new bulb
know.
in.
I'm like, it burned out. I'm gonna bury it. I didn't want it anymore, so I buried it in the backyard. Do you remember where our grass would come to that point?
Right.
Along the fence, our neighbor's fence,
Uh-huh.
uh, jeans, right?
Yeah.
Along there, it would come to a point. Right there, it's buried. It's still there,
You
I'm
should go
sure.
back and go get it.
Yeah,
Like,
sure. Like they call the cops on me. I'm over there
right.
digging. No, I like digging for bodies in my old backyard.
So I may be incorrect, but the background's blurry. We're on Rumble. It wasn't blurry, I don't think, on YouTube this morning.
No, I know, but you had a blurry. Are we live or not? Yeah.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, so it was blurry in last time as well,
Last
I
time we did
think.
it.
Yeah, and I think because it's your stream that you can do more than I can do. Are you running in the browser or are you running in an app?
I'm in the browser.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway,
I have no
it just
well,
automatically does it.
but yours is crystal clear. Your background looks
I
good.
know. I
I don't
know.
get it. Hey,
I
by the
don't either.
way, hi Michael King. So you know what's funny? You and I we talk all the time, but we come up with some of the best ideas in conversation, like like the chilies we talked about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on how what I'm going to do with the chilies. Um,
Yeah.
or like you'll bounce an idea off me and start talking, and you'll start solving all your problems just in conversation of explaining.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
So
happens all the time. I have to talk to think most of the time. So
right,
if I'm trying to think through a problem, I might just talk to myself if there's no one around.
right,
Because you're first of all, you have to think about the problem in your head, right? And organize your thoughts so that you can articulate them. Then you speak them, right? And then you listen to what you just said, and then you interpret that and judge it. So it's a feedback loop of what of thought. And
right,
so by doing that, instead of just thinking in your head, it slows that process down, and you have to hear what you're saying. So if you're like, I think and you make an argument, I think it should be like this, and you hear yourself and you think, that was the dumbest thing I just said all day, right? That's a bad idea, right?
right,
If you're
right.
more critical listening, when you hear somebody say, "Oh, we should, walk to the moon," that's
Hey, we got a
stupid.
programming question, dude.
Where? Oh, my favorite text editor. I don't have a favorite. I just have the one I happen to ever be using at the moment. Like I've used 1,000 text editors in my career. I'm just using VS Code right now. Is it my favorite? I don't know if I have a favorite, but it's the one that I'm the most efficient with right now.
So, what was the first computer language you learned? Basic,
The
or
first
did you
programming
learn
language I
machine
ever saw.
language?
No, the first programming language I ever saw was BASIC, and it was on a UNIVAC 1100 mainframe, and I was on a teletype. And I saw 3 lines of basic code, and the guy who was explaining it to me showed it to me, and I'm like, oh, I'll never understand computers. I was like, those are the words. Because I was standing outside my calculus class, right? And we're waiting, and he came from down this hallway, and I'm like, what's down that way? And he goes, oh, that's the computer lab. And I went, computer? Oh yeah, I've heard of a computer before. Yeah. He goes, you want to see? Because we were waiting for the teacher, and I'm like, yeah, let's go take a look. So we go down there and we walk up, and I'll never forget the teletype the paper that it printed on looked like a paper towel roll from the bathroom. And
Really?
so, yeah, because it's all brown, kind of like, the
Oh, I
brown
remember that.
recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like you're printing on the brown bathroom paper roll. And yeah, he didn't know how to explain it. The guy had probably a genius IQ, without a doubt, but couldn't explain something, which was
Right.
very frustrating. So I said to him, I said, I'll never understand computers. Then the second language I learned was Fortran. That was the next semester. So we're all sitting around this table, and me and my buddies are all doing our calculus homework, right? And this is in college, so doing calculus homework. And my one buddy wasn't doing it. He had his Fortran book out, and he goes, "Oh man, this is the best thing ever! So cool!" He was getting all geeked up over it. I'm like, "What is that? What is Fortran?" And he goes, "Oh, it's a computer language." I'm like, "Oh, computer, yeah, no." Right? It's all no, it's super cool. He's all excited. He's like, "You have to come with me." I'm like, I don't want to go. I've already been in the lab. But he takes me back to the lab, and this time we walk past the teletypes into another room, which I never went into. And I stopped him. I said, "Whoa, what are those?" And he goes, "Those are the terminals." I go, "They're like TVs, right?" They were CRTs. I'm like, "Oh, it's like TV, right?" This is how ignorant I was. I'm like, "It's like TV, right?" I'm like 17 years old. And I'm like,
I'm broadcasting live,
like,
honey. She's all cursing in the living room with the dog. Sorry.
So
go ahead.
I go, "Oh, they're like TVs, right?" He goes, "Yeah, kind of." And I go, "Cool." And I watched him. And for whatever reason, being on that device compared to the teletype, it just caught my attention. And so that was my second language.
Okay, so let's fast forward to your first computer, because I was there when you opened the box. I was kind of blown away. Do you remember the name of it?
I do. Ohio Scientific Challenger 4P.
No.
Yes.
It was an IBM compatible.
Nope. The one before it. I had two computers before that one. I had two computers.
Do you know which one I'm thinking?
I know which one you're thinking. So I had the Ohio Scientific. It literally had wood on the sides, and it was metal, and it was just the box like this and the keyboard all built into one piece. I didn't even have a floppy drive. I saved my programs.
I remember that.
I know. I would save my programs on cassette tape.
And then
you would do like, yeah, I had that one, and then I got the Franklin. Okay, the Franklin was an Apple II compatible, but you could get a card for it and run CP/M. So you had a CP/M card. The motherboard was all Apple, and this card that you put in there, you could run CP/M. So you could boot on either, right? If you put a CP/M disk in and booted with that, it would run on the card. But if you booted an Apple thing, it would boot off of. Actually, you didn't boot. You would. I think there was a double boot process. I can't remember anymore. But yeah, and then I got the IBM, and it wasn't a compatible. It was literally an IBM.
It wasn't a ripoff.
No, it was. I went down to Sears Business Center and bought in cash my first PC for $5,000 in cash. Because I borrowed the money. I didn't have all the money, but I wanted to learn it so that for my career, right? So I borrowed the money, and then I just paid. I paid Albus back, and
just gave me cash money from our grandfather.
Yeah, and then
I never knew that.
Yeah, I had like 3,000, and I borrowed a couple thousand from him, and I went down there and I bought it because I didn't want to wait. I wanted to learn it because I thought, oh no, IBM's getting into the micro computer business. I got to be on this. That's going to take over the industry, right? And this is when it first came out. So anyway, we should probably talk about Life Resume.
Yeah. Let's get to the topic at hand.
That's the topic, exactly. Exactly.
Wait, hold on. I just want to check real quick. Those are fighting words. Okay. Between the goalpost and blah, blah, blah. I just want to double check.
My favorite Linux distro.
They're getting hardcore now.
I know. I don't really have one. I just have ones that I use the most, and that it's Debian typically, just for convenience. I know it better. I've used it. Well, I've used Ubuntu, which is so I've used the Debian flavor for a while. So I don't have favorites of things. Too many things. My favorite language, yes, I have a favorite language for sure, because that's what I spend most of my time.
What is a Linux distro?
It's a distribution of Linux. There's different flavors of Linux, so it's yeah. Well, yeah. Don't worry about it. It's not important.
My favorite is Neapolitan. It's got the 3 flavors.
Yeah, that's a great flavor. Yeah, Except that I don't like I never liked the
strawberry is trash.
Right. So like you and I would eat the chocolate and vanilla, and Jim would eat the right.
That's
He would
right.
eat the strawberry.
All right. So let me take you back on the main track. Um,
Yeah.
you've used this term quite a bit in the past few months, and it's
Yeah.
a term you
Well,
made up.
years. It's been years. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, it was a great idea. You explained it well, but I would love for you to explain to people
Yeah.
what's a life resume and give the example.
Sure. Okay. So we all know what a resume is for work, right? So we all work to build our resume, right? To make more money, to get better jobs, blah, blah, blah. Life resume is not so much to get a life like job resumes to get a job, but life resume is so what do you put on your regular resume? On your regular resume, you put things down that are, you put things on it that are your accomplishments,
Right.
right? Right. Experience you had, things that you've, notable accomplishments, right? You never put things on your mundane things that you've done. You know, go, oh look, I booted up my computer. I put that on the resume. Not everyone does that. You put notables on there. So a life resume is what I think we should really be spending our time building. We spend a lot of time thinking about our job resume, but we don't spend enough time thinking about our life resume. So what goes on your life resume are notable accomplishments in your life that most people won't do in their lifetime, right? So my goal is to die with a massive life resume, right? If I have a lot of accomplishments of things that I've
Your
done,
goal is
and
to die.
yeah, no, my goal is to have a large life resume when I die. Okay,
Got it.
so
Okay.
so you have this. That's my goal. So put as many things as I can possibly put on my life resume. So people call it. So people are familiar with the bucket list, right?
Yep.
So bucket list is like a life resume, but it's like for the person who didn't plan, the procrastinator, right? So they just kind of like went through life, and then all of a sudden they realize, oh my God, I'm gonna die soon. And they think, I gotta do all the things I should have been doing decades before. And they try to jam all this life into the last so many years of their life, right? I remember when we were kids, we would do that during the summer. Mom would kick us out, right? And we'd be outside, and it would be like, so boring. Let's go outside and play. I don't want to play. It's hot and boring, right? So we would go out there, and it was like, and then one day I think Jim was there with us. So the three of us were out there. I think we're on the swing set. I think when we had the swing set, and we're out there, and all of a sudden I had this realization that we only had 2 more weeks left to summer. And I went, oh my God, summer's over in 2 weeks. And we all had that realization, and we panicked. And so we started trying to pack as much fun into the last 2 weeks of summer. Yet we bitched and moaned and complained the whole summer. And then we tried to jam all the fun of summer into the last 2 weeks. So to me, the bucket list is that. A bucket list is you're trying to jam all this fun into the end of your life. And I'm like, no. How about you do this? How about you try to spread it out over the full of your life, and keep a mental note of what your accomplishments are, right? What have you done that 90% or more of the people on the planet will never do, right? So I wrote a book. I could say that's on my life resume, right? I made a movie. Okay, so that's on my life resume. So I have things that I just constantly think about. Oh, that's cool, right? That I've done. So
basically it goes from the bucket list. Once it gets checked off, it goes to the life resume.
No. Bucket list is when you're like my age. You're in your 60s and you're panicking. You're like, oh, I'm gonna die. Shit, right? And you try to say all the things you want to do before you die, right? It's like us at the end of summer. We pissed away a whole summer bitching and moaning about how boring summer is. And then we tried to, at the very end, jam all the shit into one 2-week period. Okay. So my idea with the life resume is don't wait. It's an extended bucket list that you start now. Okay. But you you don't just put bucket listy things on. It's like, oh, I want to climb the mountain. I want to do all these things. Well, okay. Those are just, the problem with bucket list is it's things you want to check off, right? And go, oh, look, I did this thing and I did this thing, right?
Right.
But if that was so important to you, why didn't you do it in your 30s, right?
Right.
Why didn't you do it in your 30s? Well, you didn't do it in your 30s because you didn't start panicking and feel like you had to live your life,
All right.
right?
Let's
Try
hear.
to
Let's
live
hear your
life.
life. Let's hear some life resume stuff you've done, other than the
Uh,
movie. You produced a
right,
movie, and what was
right.
the other thing you mentioned?
Wrote a book
You
on
wrote a
functional
book.
programming,
Yeah.
right? Um,
How many
I wrote
languages have you
lots of.
taught yourself? Would that go on there?
No, I personally wouldn't put that on there because I think plenty of people learn languages. I would say, I've been written up in magazine articles about accomplishments. The music sampler that I created when I was in my 20s, that was written up in LA or Los Angeles Magazine. We were on, I think we were on ET. We were interviewed on ET, Entertainment Tonight, in the Tower Records when we installed our kiosk with all that. I did a I I wrote a video game back in the day when CD-ROM games were just kind of dying off and the internet was just happening during that transition. That Martin Short and Eugene Levy did the voices for, and so that I would put on my resume. I worked on Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead in the 90s, and yeah, the 90s. I put that on a life resume. Those are things that most people won't do, right? I played in a local band, in my neighborhood band. That I would put on a life resume because most people don't play in a band, right? So and then there's a bunch of other things. So I'll go through yours. You DJ'd, you were on the radio, right? So you used to, like, how many people are on the radio? How many people DJ clubs, right? Started a
Right.
YouTube channel, right? And and it's been viewed bazillions and millions of times.
Thanks to you, of course.
Well, no, you look. I've got ideas, but who cares? Ideas are cheap. Here's the thing: it's
Right.
who does the work. Implementate. Yeah, ideas are easy. Implementation is hard. So that's your life resume thing. So there's, it's just looking around and saying, oh, what have you done that most people will never do in their whole life, right? That's your life resume. And
Got
the
it. So
more
it's
things
not
you
just what you've done, but most people don't do it or get to do
most
it.
people won't do it, or yeah, they
Right.
won't do it or don't get to do it. I took a painting class, right? I did oil painting. I wouldn't put that on my life resume, right? Because I feel like it wasn't much. I took a class, big deal, right? Lots of people take classes and things. If I had painted something, then that if I took it further, because I did oil painting, because part of doing your life resume is trying things out, right?
Right.
So you
Right.
try something and you go, oh, I'll see if I like this, and then you don't. You're like, that didn't have the payoff I was hoping. That's fine. Don't do that. Do something else. So I don't feel like that was an accomplishment, right?
So
So
basically, it's like I rode in a plane. Well, everybody's done that, but I
yes,
flew a
but I
plane.
flew the plane,
Yes, that's
right?
way different.
Yes, right. Or like I have I like, oh, I wrote some music, but I wrote enough for an album and put it on Spotify, right? Sure, there's a lot of albums on Spotify, but most people in the world don't have an album on Spotify. Like, how long would I have to talk to people in my regular everyday life before I found another person who put an album up on Spotify?
Jack Jr. did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he didn't put a full album, did he? He put up
Yeah, he
cuts.
did a whole album.
Did he?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's got
What
like 10
happened?
songs.
What happened? Why didn't he keep going?
He decided that's not the road he wanted to travel.
Yeah,
He did
yeah, I get that.
he didn't ha his love wasn't strong enough. He enjoyed
Yes.
it, but it was
Yep.
for a time. It wasn't
Yes.
something he wanted to make his whole life about.
Well, you don't have to make your whole life about any of your life resume items, right? It's just something you enjoy doing. I look at them, I
Right.
call it, when I explain them to the normal people, or average person on the street, I don't want to go all into all this. I don't want to explain the whole idea and the concept. I just say, oh, it's a hobby, right? I just say, oh, I write music as a hobby. It's my hobby. And I just don't go into all of all of the reasons and the levels and things like that I do anything.
Okay, so I'm curious. So you have the Apple Studio in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Apple Studio. You bought the studio to do your
Yeah.
music, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sure where you were going with this.
No, I want to find out how useful the Apple Studio has been to
It's
conduct
like
your
any
music.
other. I used to do music on my laptop, so it's just like any other Mac.
Just curious. Just kind
Yeah,
of a side
I'm
note.
glad I have it. I'm glad I have it because I have a. You can't see it. It's right in front of me right here. But I have, I have my monitors, my speakers. Sorry, near field monitors. I
Right.
have the studio monitor, and I have my keyboard here where I can pull it out and things like that. So it's nice to have a setup. Whereas when I was doing my laptop, it was also my work computer. So I would have to go get my work computer, set it all up,
Wait, so
you know,
you have work and personal separate?
this is completely separate. This computer I'm on now. I only do fun stuff on this. Okay. I can't even get to my work email. There's no Slack on here. There's nothing where work can invade my fun space. I have my laptop over here and that's all work and some fun. I do some fun on that just because I like to this is stationary and I like to take my whatever I'm doing. So if I'm writing a script for something or I'm doing some idea, I'll take my laptop so I can not be chained to a desk. So,
Okay, so
but
we talked about the name F as in Frank. Somebody just asked, where is Frank?
so you want to explain? It was your idea.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
All right. So
I
since this is called
I like you better explaining it.
planning. Okay. So when we were kids, my
No,
mother
not the
would
real reason. What did you give before we started recording or
I don't
broadcasting?
know.
You said we're being really frank, remember?
Oh, right. No, yeah, that's true. So where it
Yeah,
really came
like a
from,
play on
yeah.
words.
So I said, so someone said, no, if somebody asked the question, who is Frank? I said, you should say both of us are Frank, right? Because we're being frank. Um, and so, yeah, it's a play on that idea as well as when we were kids, mom would be giving her name over the phone and she'd be spelling our last name. And when she got to the letter F, which can sound like S over the phone, especially since she said SCAL, and then you say F, it could sound like you're saying S again. She would always say F as in Frank. And we picked that up and we used it. And I think even my daughter picked it up for me and uses it when she spells her name. And so that's where it
We used to
really
make
came
fun
from.
of her all the time for saying that.
We made fun of mom for everything. Anything mom did, like we would make fun of. So yeah,
Mom used
that's
to
not
be, I used to
surprising.
call it the penguin. Rat, 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 rat. She went,
Yeah.
Jack. I'm like, oh, there's mom again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're right. We did make fun of her all the time.
Yeah, constantly.
Okay, so that's basically where it came from.
Yeah,
Nothing major to
yeah.
dive into. There is no guy named Frank, you know, and I can almost guarantee you find another show called F as in Frank, which there probably is in the world.
There might be. Yeah, there might
They'll
be.
give you probably the same explanation. They probably don't have maybe one may have a Frank. But anyway, okay. So to get back
So
on the topic,
right.
what are your bucket list life resume?
I don't have bucket list. That's my point.
No,
I
no, no.
don't think
A
people
bucket list of future life resume items that you
but
want to
that's
do.
not a bucket list. That's not a bucket list.
Okay.
I
I
I don't I
got
like
a
I
list.
there
What do you
so
want to
let's go
call it?
back. Let's just say this, okay? So what you're asking is what is the next thing I want to put on my life resume? That's what you're really
Right.
asking,
What's the
right?
next life
Right.
resume that you want to do?
I kind of don't have I guess if you were to say, what am I working on now that I could say as an accomplishment, I think maybe writing an album of songs. Okay, so I have a few songs on SoundCloud, but I want to get better at songwriting.
That's cool.
They're just okay. I'm like, they're okay.
Okay.
I
What's
listen to them and I'm surprised. I always don't like the work that I make in the moment, But then when I come back, I'm like surprised. I'm like, huh, that's not as awful as I remembered it.
Do you remember the name of your first album?
Yeah, of course. Okay.
You're-
So, well, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. So let's just stay on topic. So
right.
the thing is that what I look at is I look at what am I working on now? So I'm working on music, right? So I'm doing orchestra composing, right? I'm doing using Dorico, and I'm doing a lot of synth kind of music as well. And I'm using Phase Plant. Is my only, like, I'll do all my own sounds for the whole piece, right? Even the percussion, everything from scratch. So I start with a empty patch in Phase Plant, which is a synthesizer, and I'll build all my sounds, and then I'll write a piece for it, or a piece with it. And so that's what I'm working on now. What comes out of that would be the thing I'd put on my life resume. Like I said earlier, oh, look, I did this. I was writing screenplays in my 40s for 10 years, right? I wrote screenplays. So is that a life resume thing? Not really, but made one into a movie? Yeah, that is. Lots of people write, right? But
Right.
I turned one of my screenplays into a book, right? And so I did that, and I put out. So to me, when you have something tangible to show, like, oh, you're in a band, like that's something you got a job to do something, you produced something of value, not I played a video game. Now, some people might say I platinumed the game, right? Okay, well,
You
what
what?
game? Where you get a platinum trophy, you do all the things in a game to get the platinum trophy from games, like on the PS. You don't know this?
No, I've never heard the term.
Yeah. So the more things you do in a game, you go from, like, I don't know, I can't remember. It's like brass to,
Bronze.
yeah, bronze. Yeah, thank you. Bronze, silver, gold, and then platinum. And
Okay.
you might platinum, say, oh, I platinumed, some like Dark Souls game, some really hard game. I mean, that's an accomplishment. How many people can say that they can do that? I can't even play those games. So,
But usually life resume things are things people love to say they've done.
most people, well, like, okay, I did the Spartan challenge, right, when I was 60. So that's to me an accomplishment, right? How many people?
Tell people who don't know what the Spartan Challenge is.
Oh, it's a 5K run with interspersed with 20 obstacles. So it's an obstacle course over a 5K distance,
Like climbing a
and
wall.
climbing walls, climbing a single rope to the top, ring the bell, and come on down. There's a bunch of those things, and
Yeah, sounds like fun.
that's it. Yeah, I did it. Let's just say that much. I'm glad I did it, but I don't want to do it again. It wasn't fun. I'm like, all right, yeah, I did that. I mean, it's like the stuff I do when I work out. I don't find that fun. But I do it. So, but those are accomplishments, things that if you just think of it this way, things that most people won't do in their life, right? Then it's a way to optimize the things you're doing in your life, the time that you're spending, your free time, right? And if you're thinking about your life resume, like think about what you want to accomplish in your life, but try to get it on a resume, and always be building your next item in your resume, because all of this came out of my thought about. So I remember the $100 million lottery question. Do you remember that?
Yeah, was that a Tumblr?
No, it was a blog that I had somewhere.
Something I remember
And
that. Yeah.
way back. It was on Blog Post. That's how old it is. So I was trying to figure out, what would you do if you won the $100 million lottery, right? So, but that wasn't the question. The question is, okay, you win the $100 million lottery, okay, and then in the next year, you buy everything you ever wanted or ever would want. So you have
Yep.
everything, okay?
Yep.
Then the next year, you travel the whole world, everywhere you would ever want to see, twice. Okay, twice. You've seen everywhere twice. You've been there twice. Because a lot of times I've asked people this question, they're like, "Oh, I would travel." Okay, yeah, you don't even know. Oh, I would travel. It's sort of like this pat answer everybody gives. So I'm like, all right, you've already traveled everywhere. You've gone everywhere. All right. And they go, well, I'd go again. Okay, great. You've gone twice. Get past all that shit. Okay. You're spending the money, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, After that 2-year period, you've been everywhere in the world twice. What do you do the next day?
You bought everything you want. You're done
You
with all
bought
that.
it. You've seen everywhere that you ever want to see. What do you do the very next day when you wake up? What are you going to do? You have everything, right? Whatever the answer to that question is, okay, whatever it is, it's the thing that makes you feel the most alive, okay? So my question then is, why are you waiting to live your life after you win the $100 million lottery when you probably won't, right? 99.9999% of us will never win $100 million. So why are you saying, oh, I would learn how to fly? Okay, maybe that was your answer. And it took me a year of thought to really come to certain conclusions. But let's say that's your thing. You want to fly airplanes. So I'm like, okay, well, why are you waiting to learn how to become a pilot till after you win the $100 million lottery? That's what you should be doing today. Well, that takes this and it takes that. Yeah, okay, those are excuses, right? Those are excuses. This is something you clearly would enjoy, because if that's what you would do after you have everything you possibly could acquire and have seen everywhere you possibly could go, then that's the thing that makes you feel the most alive and excites you the most.
How do you answer that?
Oh, what would I do?
Yeah.
I'm already doing it. I'm doing all the things. If you asked me in my 40s, it would be make a movie, and I did. If you ask me now, it's or in my 50s, it was learn about functional programming. I did a lot of. I kind of discovered programming, right? And then so if you look at my 20s, I was doing my career. I spent most of my time just grinding through my career and getting that pretty much on track. Then in my 30s, I was doing animation, and I was working in Hollywood and doing CD-ROM games and things like that. Then in my 40s was screenplays and filmmaking. I made short films and did things like that. And then in my 50s, I rediscovered programming, and I went from imperative programming and object-oriented programming and things like that into functional programming, and I learned it enough to write a book on it. So that happened. And then in my 60s is all about music. So and I want to teach functional programming. So those are the two things I want to do in my 60s. So I'm always like looking at and everything worth doing takes 10 years. Here's my thing. If you said, oh, I want to do X, right? Say you want to do something. You want to become a pilot. Okay, we'll go back to that. And I tell you, okay, it's going to take you 10 years. How do you feel about that? You won't be a pilot for 10 years. You're going to be struggling, taking the classes, doing all the things for 10 fucking years. Do you still want to do it? And if you say absolutely, then that's the right thing for you. Because it does. To be good at anything takes 10 years. Notice all my things were in decades, right? It took me 10 years to go from I'm sitting on the couch, popping out like a video from Blockbuster, right? Out of the VCR, going, that was the shittiest movie. I go, from that point of me deciding that I want to make a movie because I can't rent a movie that I want to see, to actually having a movie where I'm sitting down in a theater with a bunch of people at a film festival watching a film that I co-wrote and co-produced.
You might as well tell them the name of the film you did.
Oh, it was a 2011 film, Solitary. And because there's a couple solitary movies, but it's one about a woman who can't leave her home because she's afraid. She has agoraphobia. She's afraid of outdoors, and her husband disappears, and she's got to solve the mystery of her husband's disappearance while all the time being stuck in her house. So that was Solitary.
You not only made it, but you wrote it, right? You co-wrote it.
Well, yeah, I co-wrote it with a buddy of mine who directed it, Greg DeRoshi, and and then of course, we didn't credit ourselves, but we did all these other parts of the film, right? I did all the Foley work with a buddy of mine who's a composer. He did all the sound and and all the ADR work, all the re-recordings. I was involved in that. I was the boom operator,
right.
On set. I was first assistant director and second camera assistant at times. You just hop in and do whatever is needed. Someone didn't show up that weekend. Okay, I guess I'm going to be the guy who runs and gets the different lenses for the camera and stuff like that. So yeah.
And then the whole thing was shot in Greg's house.
Yes. Well, that was the whole point of the story, was to do it based on that. But anyway, so to stay back on the life resume thing, the point is it takes 10 years. Like my music writing, right? I'm proud of the music I'm writing today, but I've only been doing it for maybe 3 years, right? I'm not ready to judge the quality of my compositions completely for another 7 years. Here's the other thing. If you want to accomplish anything, you better enjoy the process of improvement, right? So imagine this, okay? And this is just not me, but there are people who just love playing an instrument, right? I suck at playing instruments, okay? I'm terrible at it. Why? Because I don't enjoy the actual act of practice, right? Of getting faster with your fingers on things. I don't enjoy that at all. So I'll never be good at playing an instrument because I don't enjoy the process it takes to get there, the learning and the grind that you have to do and the effort and energy you have to put into it to get that good. The goal isn't worth the effort to me, okay? So for music, though, the goal is completely worth the effort, because I don't mind writing music during that path to get to my goal of being able to write anything. That's where I want to get to, where I can write. Yeah, I want to call myself a composer, right? I want to say I can write in this, right? I want to do all the things because I love music. So if you're willing to do your life resume goal, right? Something you want to put on your resume for 10 years, and you enjoy the process of getting better, right? Of a gradual improvement, then you will accomplish it. Yes. If you don't enjoy, here's the thing: if you're not enjoying it, you will give up. You'll look for excuses to procrastinate doing it. You'll look to do other things. Your life will get in the way. Oh, like things are getting too busy. You'll find other things to do, and which means you shouldn't be doing that thing, right? If you're more in love with the goal than the process to accomplish the goal, you will never get the goal.
Okay, can I address a question real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Was the script that you made the movie, was it inspired by a true story?
No. So here's how it happened. In fact, I was sitting right there. Well, I used to have my computer desk here.
Wait, isn't that the poster right there behind you?
Yeah, the poster for the film is, I can't point to it.
Over here. There it is.
Right there.
Right.
That's Mr. Bubbles. Wait, that's Mr. Bubbles. So I was sitting here writing a screenplay, and this is back when we had landlines, okay? So my buddy Greg calls me, and he goes, I want to make a film. And I go, okay. And I was excited because, I thought, okay, maybe he wants to make one of my screenplays, right? I'm trying to think, like, what one could it be? He goes, but I only have my house. He goes, I want to make it where I have control. And I know his house. I know the layout of his house and everything. So he said, but I only have my house, right? So I'm like, okay. And so I remember pacing in the room, right? We had wireless back then, and on the landline. So I'm pacing back and forth, and I'm like, okay. And so we talked for like an hour or two, and in that hour or two conversation, I came up with the original idea of a woman trapped in her house. So the question is, we have to stay in the house, right? We can't leave the house. Why, right? And that's the fact that we could only use his house to make the film, and meant that the main character cannot leave the house. So you say to yourself, okay, the main character can't leave the house. And then you say, well, why? They got to have a good reason, right? And that's the reason we made up. So we just thought, okay, she's afraid to go outside. Okay, that's cool.
Called agoraphobia.
Yeah, or agoraphobia. I think there might be, like, I don't know. I forget.
They're afraid to leave the house. That was brilliant.
Yeah, because we had right. So now we had a reason. So look, any restrictions that you come up with in any creative endeavor, right? You have to constrain your creativity, right?
Right.
That helps you focus. And the more you constrain what you're able to do, the more creative solutions you have to come up with. So keeping it interesting in a house was really, really hard. So there's got to be a mystery, right? Husband's disappearance. So great. So now she's got to try to figure out what happened to her husband while all the time not being able to get out of the house to do it.
So
So
I want to elaborate on what you're talking about. Did you have the urge to do another one?
so that took too long and it was too hard. It cost me more money in phone calls to Greg than I got paid from the Writers Guild for the royalties on the screenplay. This is back in the day when phone calls cost, and I was in 714 and he was in 213, so it was a long distance. And but that's not why I did it. I didn't do it to make money. If you turn a hobby into a job, you ruin your hobby. So and I know lots of people will disagree with that, but I've done it. I've done it. And
So your bottom
I
line
avoid
is
it.
that you do what you love. Do what you love.
Yeah, and here's the
Great.
thing. I realized that I had to depend on too many people to get a movie made. Nowadays, though, and I even said this back then, I go when 3D technology gets good enough so that you can do it all yourself. You can go get assets, buy assets, or download assets, and be able to put a whole movie together as a 3D project, right? Then you can bring the actors in one at a time to do all the voiceover work, or you could do all the voiceover, right? Depending on the story, right? You
Right.
could do all the voices, right? So like I think in the early days of Family Guy, he did all the voices, right? So except for the female voices, but you could do if it's a cartoon, you could cartoonish, you could do all the voices yourself. So and then write your own music or get music, even if you get someone to write the music, you can produce the film without coordinating schedules. When we had to shoot on set, we shot over a 3-month period and we shot on weekends. I would spend all my time after work on the phone with Greg planning that weekend shoot. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday nights were just planning the shoot, right? And then we had to contact all the actors and then the crew, and
That
we had
kind of sounds
all
boring. That sounds boring.
well, it's not the fun part. Let's put it that way. But
No.
logistically, to make the film, we had to go through all of that, and
Right.
I didn't want to do that. I don't like when I create something. I don't know if I have to depend on you, and then you have to depend on someone else, and then or you have 5 other people. Do you know how hard it is to coordinate schedules? Right? People are busy, and they were doing the film for for almost nothing, if not nothing, in some cases. So that became complicated. If you can do it all 3D and you can then schedule one at a time, right? Each person comes in and does
Right.
their
Right.
piece. That then you can actually crank out stuff, and I don't have to depend on too many people. So I would do it again today if I could do that. Now with Unreal Engine 5, you can do those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
So the
A lot of
technology is
gamers, a lot
amazing.
of gamers in the chat know exactly what that is.
Right. And so that's the cool thing, right? So what I was talking about 20 years ago is now a possibility that you can actually make films in your own, well, maybe it's less than 20 years, but you can now make films sitting in your bedroom. Like I make music sitting right here, right? I think people can make films at this point, whereas you didn't used to be able to do that. And with AI video creation, oh my God, it's just endless.
Yeah.
And
You don't
so
have
I
to
don't
do
know. It's
anything
pretty
but go
cool.
to a website to build a movie.
Well, have you seen where there's a YouTube channel where they take like they'll go, oh, Gilligan's Island, and then they'll say in the style of the 50s, and then they have the characters. Somehow they like, oh, there's the professor, but from scene to scene, the professor is what we used to call in animation off model, right? He looks similar but different. enough different that you recognize that there's a difference, but similar enough to you go, oh, that's supposed to be the professor, but it looks different. So AI doesn't know how to maintain that single character's look.
They don't know
So
how to
right now,
spell either.
right. So now, right now, AI is very, very limited. But once again, technology, give it time, and yes, you'll be able to do amazing things with AI or Unreal, things like that, and not have to do these massive, complicated. I mean, what we were doing back in 2011, we were shooting on the Red camera, right, which had just come out, and that was shooting in 4K. And we mastered in 1K because no one had 4K anything. No one was streaming 4K
I
back then.
remember that.
No one.
Like, who
Because
has
it was on
4K?
the movie was on Netflix. The movie was on Netflix originally, and it we had to master it in 1K. So then, as time went on, it got remastered in 4K. And my buddy Greg went through and he's a special effects guy. He's got his credits are huge,
He's
like
done all the Spider-Mans.
He's done a bunch of Spider-Man, you name it. He's done all kinds. His resume is as long as your arm.
Right.
And so he did his own special effects, and he had to go back and redo the special effects and re-render them at a higher resolution, and then he mastered the whole thing out again. So what you see today is was shot on 4K and then remastered with special effects.
So where can it be? Do we know where it can be watched?
Yeah, you can see it on Amazon Prime.
It's for free?
I think if you have Prime, it's free. If you have Prime, it's free.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't, it's only a couple bucks.
So let's do this. Let's pick this up next week. Thank you for explaining Life Resume. I encourage people to think about this. Think about where you're going, what you love, because two things. One, like he said, you got all the money in the world. You've done everything in the world. You bought everything in the world. What do you do next? That's what's important to you. Okay? And once again, do what you love. That's the main point of all of this, because you're going to spend a lot of hours practicing what you love, whatever it is. So we'll pick up our explanations, more of explaining things next week. And then, are you good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's say goodbye. Awesome. And we'll do this again next week.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.